first we got to get to the tropics, because this is truly the time of year where we wear both hats, your Hurricane HQ, your Severe Weather HQ. And guess what? We have our first update. Yes, the new advisory is in.
That also includes a hurricane watch for the Azores. 2 invests with good chances of development, rain in the Lesser Antilles. There's a lot to unpack. Thankfully, we've got Bryan Norcross coming up.
And severe storms right on track as Bryan Kopic is live on set. Yeah, the arclitex are taking it on the chin today. And the thing is, today, the tornado potential is growing, especially for states like Arkansas and Oklahoma.
And all this week, we're looking back at the lasting impact of Hurricane Helene. Fox Weather's Robert Ray is retracing Helene's path from coastal disaster to the flooding catastrophe in Appalachia. He's live at one of the worst hit cities in Florida. The stories of resilience and rebuilding.
So on the heels of the brand new advisory that we just brought to you here on Fox Weather, let's bring in weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross. Bryan, good to see you. Excited to hear your thoughts with the new advisory.
Yeah, it is amazing that storm is still a Category 4, but we see signs now that the environment is becoming less conducive to development, so to maintaining it. So it is forecast to weaken as it heads off. And the systems to the south, both of these are becoming more threatening based on what we're seeing. So we have a lot to talk about here this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on with Gabrielle. There's the incredible 140 mile per hour sustained wind estimate here as of 11 o'clock Eastern time, pressure at 948, now beginning to speed off well away from Bermuda, but still some effects in the ocean there. Look at it close up and you can see how things are changing. First of all, there in the eye, we're starting to see the eye fill with some clouds, so it's going to start weakening. Also, look on this left side here, kind of a flattening of the left side as we get some stronger upper level winds beginning to push on it. So the expectation is indeed that it will weaken, and there's the forecast from the Hurricane Center from 140 now to 130 and 120. And as we go forward in time here and get over toward the Azores, you see still a hurricane late Thursday into Friday. So the government in the Azores has put up a hurricane watch there. And look at this, still a tropical storm as it approaches the northern part, northeastern, or that would be northwestern part of Spain, and up in the Porto region in Portugal there. So this won't be tropical, so to speak, but still a healthy storm could impact there, looks like, over the weekend. So really unusual to get that. All right, let's take a look at these invests. First of all, this first one, this is the farthest east one. This is called Invest 93L. Only estimated at 25 mile per hour winds, but a big circulation. So if this does pull itself together, and the odds are very high that that's going to happen, this is going to be big. So this could turn into a big hurricane. But boy, there's a lot of uncertainty. So there you see the odds in the very high range. It is still surrounded by a lot of dust, but you can see that we have darker colors kind of here trying to wrap around. So you get more and more thunderstorms. It kind of makes itself a pocket that is more moist, and it can pull itself together, and it is forecast to do that. So we'll watch for that. Here's the National Hurricane Center likely development area in this area here, and it's uncertain because it's uncertain when it's going to move away from the dry and dusty air and get up here into the warmer water, and lots of moisture up there as well. So keeping an eye out for all that. And it's really complicated because we have this other system which is down here, and how are these two going to interact up in this area? And that puts big question marks on especially the other one, but even potentially on this 93L. It's a very, very complex weather pattern whenever you have two potentially developing systems near each other. So here's the 94L. They estimate 30 mile an hour winds with that. Pressure at 1010. You see a 60% chance on that one here as we get a few days from now. So not immediately. This isn't a threat for a big storm for the islands, but gusty winds and downpours. Here you see what's going on right now on the radar. So remember this sort of a structure, because what's happening, upper level winds are blowing like this and kind of pushing everything back behind what is the nominal center of this. And look where the moisture feed is. So the moisture feed is coming up like that. Okay, now let's imagine this moving forward here, and you're going to see as this system goes this way over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, it's going to pull that moisture in there. Now, that's not going to be today. Today, it's going to be in those northeastern Caribbean islands, maybe as far south as down to Santa Lucia. But then we're going to move forward. This, by the way, you can just make out here is, let me see if I can erase this here. This right in here, that's an upper level low. That's going to slowly move out of the picture. That's what's making the hostile conditions over top of the invest right now. All right, let's look at all this when we put it in the model and the moisture. This is the European model, and this is only one possibility, but in the beginning, all the models sort of agree. So here we go. So this one, of course, is the 93L, and this one is the one that is forecast to head up that way. And then we have 94L here. There's the moisture on the back side of it. You can see right in there that we saw on the radar, and we have this dry air being pushed into it on the other side, so that's what's keeping it from developing right now. Okay, let's go forward in time. Watch the days up here. Now we're to tomorrow, and you notice it's tomorrow that moisture feed is right over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So this looks like the most intense moisture, possibility of flash flooding. They've already had flood threats in Puerto Rico from previous systems, so everything is very saturated there. So we're going to watch for that possibility tomorrow and lasting into Thursday. And here goes the other system. You see it's gathering moisture there and shedding some of that dry air. So we'll look for some possibility of development. Right now, they're far enough away, and because they're not very strong, there's no possibility of interaction. But now we get to Friday, and you see that this system, 94L, getting a circulation over or near the Bahamas, and this one over here is getting a circulation. Okay, which one becomes Humberto, which one becomes Imelda is open to question. This is Friday. And, you know, generally there is agreement in the models about this time that something like this is going to happen. And then we get into very fuzzy territory toward the weekend. Let's go to Saturday. This is the European model. Now, there's a lot to look at here. First of all, notice that the two systems are closer to each other. So it really depends on how strong this one gets on whether it starts interacting with this one. The other more complicated and interesting thing about this is I want you to look at the flow around this one closely. And what you see is it kind of goes like this. And that's because there's another low pressure system out here that's related to a front that you can kind of make out that front up in here. And there's an upper level low, and it's a super complex weather pattern. So the question is, what exactly here is the storm, and how might these two things interact? When I'm going to show you in a second the big distribution of possibilities. The European model kind of continues this north, that this low over in here kind of drives it like that in some fashion. But the question is, do they somehow rotate in some kind of different way? And if this one gets strong, how and has a flow coming around like that, how might that interact with this one here? So when we look at the kind of possible distribution of lows, look at our variety of models here, and what you see is that the Google AI model holds it back as of late Sunday. The European model moves it forward, and the GFS model keeps it more offshore, and kind of the interaction between these two systems is a little more dramatic. And when we look at our tropical threat graphic, what we see is, remember that the reds here are more certainty. So we talk about this one out here, it's pretty high certainty that it's going to be at least a tropical depression in this area. This one has a lot less certainty, and you notice it kind of bulges up here. But because it involves the European, the GFS, and the Google AI model, it focuses down in here by late Sunday and kind of holds it back and actually puts kind of a threat zone all the way from South Florida on up to Virginia, really, including the Carolinas. So there is a high uncertainty about this, and I don't want anybody in Florida looking at the models or trying to project exactly what's going to happen. We don't know. I want to repeat what I said. The threat zone includes South Florida all the way up to North Carolina and Virginia. Now, a threat from what, you might say? Well, we have the Gulf Stream. Remember, the Gulf Stream comes from the extremely warm Caribbean, wraps around like this, and then goes up like that. So this system is going to be tracking over that extremely warm and deep Gulf Stream. So we're not going to rule out any kind of possibility, including a hurricane, with this system going into the weekend and in early next week. It really depends on how long it sits here. Does it get picked up by this dip in the jet stream here and interact with that low pressure system over the East Coast? Does this one become Umberto first and become a strong hurricane? Remember, it's a large system and have some kind of effect. So this is an unknowable, that's an unknowable answer to that question of what exactly are we talking about here in this zone right in here. But this is, there is a threat zone there, and we're going to be watching this here very carefully over the next few days, no question about that. There you see, as we grow it into Tuesday, what happens there. And you can see that still on Tuesday, where is it most likely to be? Most likely be down in here somewhere, but there is a possibility of it going up there toward the Carolinas. It's just we have this big distribution of possibilities still at that point. Bermuda is going to have to watch this the first of next week. Indeed, there could be a big hurricane in the vicinity there. So lots and lots to look at with all these systems. Haley and Bretta?
Yeah, it's tough when you're in a situation where it's not cut and dry. Sometimes it's easy to find the solution. Mm-hmm. Other scenarios require more patience, and that's where we're at with that. One thing I do want to ask you before we let you go, Bryan, is we have struggled to create bona fide hurricanes this season. But the two that we have created were Aaron and now Gabrielle, a Cat 5 and a Cat 4, right, respectfully. What are your thoughts on that, the whole, quality versus quantity discussion?
Well, the whole northern hemisphere has struggled to create strong storms this year, and now that's changing, and I don't think anybody knows why and what exactly has happened. It no doubt has something to do with the MJO, that pulse that goes around the Earth. Absolutely. And it's been weak over this year. So if that has gotten stronger, so it has more effect just in general around the Earth in some fashion, I don't know. That's a different part of the science that I certainly don't have any expertise in. But there is a super typhoon that is moving, has moved north of the Philippines and is moving toward China. Yeah, Ragasa, is the name on that. But it's but that's blown up as well after a record calm year in the Western Pacific. So are these things tied together in some fashion? I don't know. But it is an interesting question, Bretta. And the bottom line is here, obviously, the Atlantic now is in a mode to support significant storms. And the concern for the southeast U.S. about this 94L is take that and take the issue and then take the Gulf Stream and, let's be sure that we're not letting down our guard because it doesn't look like much right now.
Yeah. That's what I love about science. You're never done investigating reality and what can happen. Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross, thank you so much for the update out of the tropics.